Yo guys, what's going on? This is xVFRoSTeD back again with some Showdown live. This Showdown matches were actually an OU tournament based on the tournaments that are going on Showdown. I decided to join an 8-man tourney, and this was the outcome of it. So I figured I'd share these matches with you because they were really cool matches. First off, we start off with the first match with Mega TalonFlareon. Before I begin, this is the match I'm going to be using, or the team I'm going to be using for this tournament. It's going to be Goodra, Lucario, Starmie, Gyarados, Conkeldurr, and Heatran. So, there's really not much to explain about this team. I mean, I'm just trying to use Mega Gyarados just to see how, it does. And I literally just built this team a couple hours ago, and I saw there's an OU tournament going on. So I decided why not to try it. So I led off with my Conkeldurr as he leads off with his Infernape, expecting him to lead with the Greninja, but he doesn't. So I go for the Drain Punch, seeing as I can live any hit from Infernape and do any damage to anything. I decided to pull a switch out to Heatran, expecting Moonblast for the Diancie or Stealth Rocks, whatever he wanted to do, because I wanted to get my own Stealth Rocks up, which I end up doing as he goes back into his Infernape. And then I go ahead and pull the switch out into this Gyarados, and I was kind of fearing that he was going to go for the Thunder Punch there, because I wasn't even sure exactly what the kind of Infernape this was. But he actually ends up going for the Earthquake, which actually benefits me more, so my Gyarados actually sits at a very high amount of HP, which I think comes into play later on. So forcing him to switch out, he goes right back into Ferrothorn. I'm thinking he's going to go into his Thunder, so I go for the Stone Edge, but I end up missing, which did not end up mattering, as he goes into, uses Ferrothorn to use his T-Wave on me, and right here, he goes and gets his Stealth Rocks up, and I was really predicting a switch here back into the Infernape or whatever, so I decided to go for the Toxic, predicting the Infernape to come back in, but he actually makes a really good play and uses Stealth Rocks and on my Toxic. And here I expected him to switch out again. He actually goes and predicts me again, goes for the Lead Sheet as I go for the Roar, and I roar him out into his Slowbro. And I don't even know what I'm doing at this point. Like, I feel like he's not going to make the obvious play go back into Ferrothorn, but he actually ends up doing that. So this kid's playing me right now. I'm sitting here trying to predict over this Ferrothorn. He's like, he doesn't care. He goes back into Slowbro, and I'm like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm going into Conkeldurr. It doesn't matter if you go into Slowbro or Ferrothorn. No one's going to appreciate a knockoff. As he doesn't, and he ends up scolding me, which could have been a bad play because obviously Conkeldurr carries Guts, and if he had burned me, he would have gotten me, given me the free boost for like literally no reason. But he didn't, so I go ahead and switch out into Goodra, because seeing as it's my safest switch against Slowbro, I decided to go straight for the Thunderbolt as I do 69% and I get Lucky Paralysis, which doesn't end up coming into play because the very next turn I go for the Thunderbolt to knock out the Slowbro. And he goes into Greninja here, and I decide to stay in with Goodra because I know I can tank at least one hit and hit him with the Dragon Pulse, and it ends up paying off because Greninja almost dies. And I decided to go and pull a switch into Heatran, knowing that he's going to go for the Ice Beam to hit my Heatran, and he's going to die to his own Life Orb, so that happens. And here, I decided to let my Heatran die, seeing as it doesn't really cover much of the rest of his team other than that Ferrothorn, but honestly, I still have Conkeldurr on my team, and I still have Lucario as well. So if I wanted to deal with that Ferrothorn, that's fine, and I already got my Rocks up, so I decided to sack off my Heatran here to his Close Combat, that gives me a free switch into my Starmie. And I know he's probably going to end up switching out to his Ferrothorn, but I wanted to get the Scald off, see if I can get a burn on it at least so I could have an easier time dealing with it. But unfortunately, I don't get the burn, and I go into Goodra. And you guys are wondering why I go into Goodra here. I mean, unfortunately for this particular Goodra, I don't carry the Flamethrower, which is one of those moves that I kind of wish I put on it, but I didn't want to put on it because I got a Bolt Beam coverage along with Fairy coverage, which would be Sludge Bomb. So he Thunder Waves me, and later on, because Goodra's not very well known in the OU tier now, since it's kind of down into UU, he doesn't know that I carry the Sap Sipper ability, which is actually a really decent ability, and the reason I carry this ability is for like Burloons with Spore, or Smeargles with Spore. So I go and switch in. I decide to go for the Ice Beam SA. He reveals he has the knockoff, which is just fine. I go for the Ice Beam, and here is where he didn't realize that I have the Sap Sipper, as he goes for the Leech Seed to, you know, he goes for the Leech Seed. I get a +1 attack. Doesn't end up mattering though, because Goodra is not physically physically infested at all, and I had no physical attacks. And he decides to go for the second knockoff to knock me out. And I go and get a free switch on my Conch Elder. Just go ahead and go for the Drain Punch on anything that wanted to switch into it. I didn't care who. And I decided to fodder off Conch Elder at this point because I didn't see it as to be very useful. So I went for the Mach Punch just to get some, you know, damage onto it. And then I decided to go into Gyarados right after because nothing wants to really take a waterfall from Gyarados looking at his team. He decides to go into his Thundurus here, and right here I decide to go for the Mega Evolution, and because it will cut my 4x weakness into a 2x weakness. And Gyarados, I know, gets a special defense boost, so I knew it could be bulky enough to take a Thunderbolt, but it was based on rolls here. And what's ended up happening is I actually get the low roll, and he gets the one. I get to live at 1 HP, which was very, very unfortunate on this part. But at the same time, it kind of didn't matter because I do have Starmie, and you guys are wondering, like, Starmie can't really take on Thundurus. My Starmie's actually Scarfed, as stupid as it sounds, and I'll explain why later on. So, yeah, I actually end up living the Thunderbolt, and I'm able to kill off his Thundurus, which, his Ferdig comes in. He has no choice but to lock himself into close combat, which I find out later on it is actually Scarfed. And, you know, he was trying to find out the best move to figure out, because based off right here, the chat room, he's like, interesting, be right back. So he was trying to find out the best move to lock himself into, seeing how much close combat does to my Starmie, but unfortunately he didn't realize that my Starmie is actually Scarfed too. Again, as stupid as it sounds. So I end up winning in the first round of the tournament, so we're going to jump right into the second match. For the second match, I lead off with Conch Elder again because I thought, again, he's going to lead off with Greninja here, but he doesn't end up growing up with Greninja. He leads off with Talonflame, and Talonflame is a massive threat to my team because no one really appreciates a Brave Bird from this thing. So I decided to pull a switch into my physically defensive Heatran, and seen as 27%, so I was assuming that this Talonflame could possibly be choice banded, but I didn't know. So I go for the Stealth Rocks, knowing that he's going to pull the switch out into his Keldeo, and I decide to go pull a switch out into Starmie. And like I said before, I was thinking that this Keldeo might be Scarfed, and I thought he might stay in because he didn't know that I was Scarfed. So again, Scarf Starmie coming through, hitting him up with the Sidekick, but unfortunately does not pick up the KO here, as he goes for the HP Grass, I believe, or HP Electric. I'm not sure exactly what that was. So I decided to pull his free switch into my Lucario, hit him up with the Extreme Speed to knock him out. And I know this Thundurus comes in, and he's going to go for the Thunder Wave here, and I know he's going to go for the Thunder Wave, but the safest possible play I could go into is my Goodra, so I go ahead and do that, as he does indeed go for the Thunder Wave. And right here, I knew he was going to pull the switch out into his Greninja here, and I was going to go for the Thunderbolt, but unfortunately, I get paralyzed, which sucks. So he goes for the Hydro Pump, expecting me to pull a switch out into Heatran, expecting me to go for the Ice Beam, but unfortunately I again go for the Thunderbolt, and I get para-hacked. So I'm already getting hacked. This kind of sucks. I decided to go for the Thunderbolt there, and I finally hit, but unfortunately he wasn't a water typing, so it wasn't enough to knock out the Greninja. And I know he's going to go for the Ice Beam now to try to finish me off, so I go and pull a switch out into Heatran here, and I knew he was going to try to switch up moves here, and right here I'm kind of trying to lifestall him because, you know, 10% of Life Orb here. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull a switch back into Goodra. So I switch back into my Goodra, and excuse me guys, I'm kind of catching a cold here. He goes for the Hydro Pump and kills himself to his own Life Orb. Goodra is really weak, and I could have used it as fodder for later, but he brings out the Scizor, and I really didn't want to bring in my Heatran and its full possible superpower. So I let him die there, and I use Lava Plume, and he actually surprisingly stays in with his Scizor here, and I stay in with my Heatran, knowing that this Thundurus is probably going to go for like some sort of T-Wave or something. I knew I could take a hit from this thing as long as it didn't have the Focus Blast, or if it missed or whatever. So I decided to go straight for the Lava Plume, and luckily for me, it ended up knocking him out, which was great. So this Latios comes in and he reveals to me he has the Luster Plurge. And if you guys are wondering what that is, it's a psychic type attack that's a 70 base power, 100 base accuracy, and I believe it has a chance of dropping special defense. I'm not exactly sure how much of a chance it does have. I think it's like 30 or something. I'm not sure. I haven't seen that move in a long, long time. But he decides to go for it, and he drops my special defense, because that just reveals to me that Latios doesn't really have much to hit my Heatran with. So I try to go for the Toxic here, but unfortunately I get haxed again and miss the Toxic, which didn't end up mattering, because I end up going for the Toxic once again and poisoning him for a second time. But he does go for the Luster Plurge. This is where I make the play to go and use Roar, so I could force out his Talonflame and force him to go for the Brave Bird on my Heatran, because I could just roar him out again and it'd just be repeating in history. So he decides to knock me out with the Brave Bird to kill my Heatran, and I decide to go into my Lucario, and my Lucario is actually Focus Dash, so it's able to survive the Brave Bird, and I'm able to go to +2 and hit him up with the Extreme Speed to knock out the Talonflame, and Lucario kind of cleans up here with the Extreme Speed, so it knocks out Latios as well. That was GG on Mega Latios' part, and here we are going into the final match of this tournament. This was against Swag Piper, and I lead off with Starmie because I realized that he doesn't really have too much for Starmie, because he's got 1, 2, 3, 4 pokes weak to water on his team, and Rotom is the only resist. So I saw Starmie as the perfect lead for this opportunity, but I decided that it was not a good idea against Rotom. So I decided to go into Goodra, safest switch I could possibly make into a Volt Switch. As he goes into Gardevoir, I decided to go a pull switch out into my Heatran, knowing that he's going to probably go for the Hyper Voice, which he ends up doing. And right here, I decided to go get my Stealth Rocks up, as seeing as it's the best option I have. Then that's exactly what I do, and I do go back into Goodra, as he saw it to be too obvious of a play for him to go for the Volt Switch. And me expecting that, I switched into Goodra, but he could have went for the Volt Switch there and went right back into Gardevoir and, repeat the same thing. But it honestly didn't even matter at this point, because he doesn't even have Stealth Rocks up, so I could constantly switch between the two and keep on damaging the two, because I have my own Stealth Rocks up. Anyways, so he goes for the Hydro Pump, and obviously does absolutely nothing, because I only resist it, and it's not really especially defensive. But right here, he went for the Volt Switch. I knew he was going to go pull the switch right back out into Gardevoir, and predicting this, I end up going for the Sludge Bomb. I end up getting a crit and a poison on this Gardevoir, which is very unfortunate on my opponent. I'm sorry, man. That's just part of the game, as much as I hate hacks as well. Then he switches into Landers, and he makes a very interesting play. He actually ends up staying in on my Goodra, expecting me to be Specs, because the amount of damage it did into Gardevoir, he thought I was Specs, but unfortunately I got a crit on him, so I couldn't really tell. But he tried to set up a Calm Mind on my Goodra, and he paid the price with an Ice Beam right there, and he lost his Landers right there. Not a really good way to start off. And at this point, he doesn't really have much for Goodra. He's just trying to whittle it down at this point, and I see the Dragon Pulse does only 33%, so I decided to switch up my moves and go straight for the Sludge Bomb, trying to get a poison on the Rotom, because seeing the leftovers, I know it's not a Chesto Resto set, so it could, I know it has Pain Splits, but I'm trying to just at least get the poison on it so I can deal with this Rotom a little bit better. And really, the only reason I would need Goodra at this point is to deal with this Rotom, so I decided to keep going for the Sludge Bomb as he switches up into Donphan, as I Sludge Bomb him, and I of course get another crit, another poison on the Donphan, and I felt really bad for my opponent here at this point. Like, I got 2 crits and a poison on each Gardevoir and and Donphan. That kind of sucks. So I decided to pull a switch out to Starmie, expecting him to go for the Ice Shard here, as he actually pulls the double back into his Rotom. And after Stealth Rocks and Leftovers recovery, he was in range of my Psychic, which ends up critting once again. I feel so bad for my opponent right now. I've been hacking this, man. I'm normally the guy that receives hacks on the end. But I decided to stay in with my Starmie, seeing as there's not really a safe switch other than Heatran, but Heatran I think is a kind of low HP, or I just wanted to knock it out, because I see that Starmie's not really much of a use anymore. I mean, I could have used it against the Terrakion, but I wanted to get a free switch hit to my Gyarados, as he reveals that he has Rapid Spin. Obviously, he knocks out the rocks, And I go for a second Dragon Dance here because I wanted to be able to beat his Terrakion, just in the case that it is Scarf. I don't want to go and Mega Evolve against this Donphan and then having Terrak come in and having it revealed to be Scarf and knocking out my Gyarados. So I decided to go for +2, and he thinks I'm just taunting him at this point, but honestly I'm just making the safest play possible. He's just like, just finish me off, and I'm like, okay. So I finish off his Donphan, and then here comes his Terrakion, which actually, again, reveals to be Scarf, and because I'm +2, I end up outspeeding it and knocking out, winning the OU tournament for Showdown. It was really good games. I mean, the last battle was kind of anticlimactic because the fact that I had been hacking this man all over the place, and it turned out to be a 5-0. But nonetheless, the first 2 matches were great. The tournament was great. The tournament was hosted by Mega TalonFlareon, which was actually my first opponent, which, you know, thanks for hosting that tournament, man. It was a great tournament. I had a lot of fun. If you guys like this video, please leave a like, comment, and subscribe. I really like the likes because, I mean, I know I haven't really been uploading too much because obviously I haven't really had the time to. And normally when I do have the time, I would rather stream for you guys. So if you guys really want to, you know, support me, just go ahead and leave a like, comment, and subscribe. And thanks for watching. xVFRoSTED signing off. Later, guys.